Getting the marriage license is fine, but we sleep in separate rooms after we're married, and there will be absolutely no crossing the line before the wedding. Outside the Civil Affairs Bureau, the midsummer sun blazed down, harsh and blinding. Olivia Sullivan wore a minimalist black dress, her figure tall and willowy, her features as exquisite as a masterpiece carefully sculpted by God himself. Yet on that breathtakingly beautiful face, there wasn't a trace of newlywed joy, only an eternal, unmelting coldness and distance. She was the heiress of the Sullivan family, Riverdale's most powerful old money clan, and universally acknowledged as the city's #1 ice queen. Cold, abstinent, aloof, those had been the labels stuck to her for 3 years running. Countless wealthy heirs and brilliant young men had pursued her, but the number of men who'd ever gotten within half a meter of her could be counted on one hand. And me, Liam Carter. An ordinary guy whose parents had died young, who'd scraped by on his own. Today, I'd just signed a marriage license with her. It was a contract marriage, and everyone knew it. Old Mr. Sullivan was gravely ill, and his only dying wish was to see his granddaughter settled down. To fulfill her grandfather's wish and fend off the endless stream of suitors pushing for political marriages, Olivia had come to me. The terms were simple. Marry her, play the loving husband for 1 year. After a year, we'd divorce amicably, and she'd give me $5 million in cash, plus a luxury Riverview penthouse downtown. For someone like me, someone with nothing, who carried the weight of life alone, it was an impossible offer to refuse. Her only requirement, the bottom line she'd emphasized over and over, an abstinent coexistence. No intimacy whatsoever. Right now, her cool eyes swept over me dismissively, her voice as cold as shattered ice, not a trace of warmth in it. Liam, I'm going over the rules one last time. After marriage, we live together but not in the same room. Keep our distance in daily life. Play the loving couple in public, but don't interfere with each other in private. No holding hands, no hugging, no physical contact of any kind, no suggestive words. During the 1-year contract period, 0 intimacy, 0 crossing the line. If you can do it, the contract takes effect. If not, we terminate it right now. Her tone was utterly indifferent, as if marriage were nothing more than a transaction with no romance involved, and I was just a temporary prop she'd hired for the show. A few scattered onlookers around us threw looks that were equal parts pity and mockery. Oh my God, he married Riverdale's #1 ice queen, and he can only look but not touch? This isn't marriage, this is just renting a room from a cold landlady. $5 million for a year of empty marriage, can't touch, can't flirt, nothing. Liam's got it rough. Olivia's abstinence is legendary. I heard she even feels sick if a guy makes eye contact with her for more than 3 seconds. This marriage is basically a living widowhood. The murmurs reached my ears, and I couldn't help but smile bitterly inside. Honestly, I'd never had any improper thoughts about this Ice Queen CEO to begin with. Too beautiful, too cold, too far out of reach. The high and mighty Sullivan heiress and a bottom-of-the-barrel nobody like me, we were from 2 different worlds. I nodded, my tone calm. I agree. I'll follow all the rules. As long as I got paid and did my job, kept my head down and survived the year, I'd be rich and free after that. Why go looking for trouble? Olivia's cold eyebrows relaxed slightly, and she handed over a brand new red marriage certificate. The red booklet was glaring, but her fingertips were ice cold, and she never once touched me the whole time. Good. Move into the Sullivan Villa this afternoon. The master bedroom is mine, the West guest room is yours. You are never, under any circumstances, to step foot in the master bedroom. With that, she turned and walked straight toward a black Bentley, her figure cold and resolute, not looking back even once. I stared at the marriage certificate in my hand, then at that cold, proud silhouette through the car window, and shook my head helplessly. The Ice Queen wife that the entire internet obsessed over, that countless rich men had thrown money at and couldn't get. I'd married her. But I could only look. Not touch. A purely decorative marriage. That afternoon, I packed my simple belongings and moved into the Sullivan family's hillside villa, worth over $100 million. The villa was luxurious and spacious, minimalist and cold, just like Olivia's personality, spotless, without a single trace of lived-in warmth. Every corner of the enormous house radiated coldness and distance. At 6 in the evening, Olivia came home from work. She wore a sharp black business suit, her long hair swept up in a high ponytail, revealing her exquisite, pale swan-like neck. Her presence was overwhelming, the unmistakable aura of a billionaire CEO. She took off her coat and handed it casually to the maid, her gaze sweeping over me as I unpacked. She spoke flatly. "There's a family dinner tonight. All the Sullivan relatives and elders will be there. Remember your role. Play my husband convincingly the whole time. In public, we can hold hands, walk side by side, act moderately intimate, but only in public. The moment we get home, we go back to boundary mode. Not an inch over the line." I stopped what I was doing and nodded. "Understood. And one more thing." Olivia frowned slightly, her tone carrying a cold warning that brooked no argument. "I have severe touch aversion. I absolutely hate being touched by the opposite sex. Acting in public is fine, just going through the motions, but don't you dare deliberately get close to me or flirt with me. Otherwise, the contract terminates immediately, and you get nothing." Every word drew a clear line. Abstinent, a germaphobe, cold, distant. In that moment, I was absolutely certain. My Ice Queen wife genuinely had zero interest in men, from head to toe. She was pure and abstinent to the extreme. At 7 that evening, the Sullivan family's top-tier gala dinner. A gilded private estate, luxury cars lined up outside, half of Riverdale's most powerful figures in attendance. Glasses clinked, celebrities mingled. I wore a custom-tailored suit that Olivia had prepared for me, tall and straight, clean and composed. Standing next to Olivia, stunningly beautiful, her presence dominating the entire room, I didn't look the least bit out of place. Countless eyes instantly focused on us, whispers rising all around. "So that's Miss Sullivan's new husband? I heard he's just an ordinary commoner, no background at all." Tisk, tsk, a sparrow climbing the branch to become a phoenix. Too bad it's useless. With Miss Sullivan's personality, who could ever warm her up? I heard they sleep in separate rooms after marriage. Zero intimacy. It's just a piece of paper. This guy's nothing but a tool. So tragic. Married the most beautiful woman in the city, can only look but not touch. A lifetime of living widowhood. In the crowd, a few second-generation rich kids from the Sullivan family's branch relatives wore especially mocking expressions, sneering under their breath. Leading them was Mason Sullivan, Olivia's cousin, who'd been obsessively pursuing her for years, secretly in love with her, burning with resentment. He carried a wine glass and sauntered over, his gaze sweeping over me with contempt. His voice dripped with sarcasm. "Liam, right? I really admire your guts, daring to marry our Olivia. But let me give you a friendly warning. Olivia's been cold and abstinent since she was a kid, keeps men at arm's length. She'll never fall for a man in her entire life. Your marriage is just self-deception. You'll be out on the street with nothing after a year. What's the point of playing loving couple now?" A group of Sullivan kids around him chimed in, faces full of mockery. Exactly. Olivia the goddess is pure and unsullied, abstinent and cold. You'll never warm her up. Forget sharing a bed, I bet you can't even touch her hand in private, not even once. Stuck with a beautiful wife and living like a monk. You're the most pathetic groom on the entire internet. Faced with their taunts and jeers, my expression stayed calm. I didn't care. It was a contract marriage anyway. I got paid to do a job. Why argue? But just then, Olivia, who'd been cold as ice, expressionless this whole time, suddenly moved. The next second, a slender, ice-cold hand reached out and linked through my arm. A warm, soft body pressed gently against my arm. A faint, cool fragrance instantly filled my nose. The entire room went dead silent. Everyone's mocking smiles froze on their faces, looks of utter disbelief. Everyone knew Olivia had severe touch aversion, hated any contact with the opposite sex. Forget linking arms, if an ordinary man got within half a meter, she'd instinctively step away, give them the cold shoulder, and drive them off. But now, she was linking arms with an ordinary nobody, her posture intimate, her eyes cold but carrying a fierce protective streak. Olivia's icy gaze swept over Mason and his group. Her tone was flat, but her presence crushed everyone. My husband is not for outsiders to judge. We are a loving couple. We don't need anyone else's opinion. One sentence, and it shut everyone up. Mason's face instantly turned livid with embarrassment. He stared daggers at me, his eyes burning with jealousy and resentment. The whole room was dead silent. Everyone was completely stunned. I was also slightly taken aback, turning my head to look at the Ice Queen beside me. Up close, her exquisite profile was flawless, long lashes, skin as pale and cold as jade. But I could clearly feel that the fingertips linking my arm were slightly stiff, trembling faintly. Obviously, she was forcing herself through the discomfort. To sell the loving couple act, to silence the gossip, she was forcibly pushing past her own germaphobe bottom line. Linking arms with me was, for her, an enormous ordeal and source of revulsion. I understood, and I subtly shifted my body, deliberately creating a little distance so she wouldn't be too uncomfortable. That tiny, subtle movement didn't escape Olivia's eyes. Her cool eyes flickered slightly, and she glanced at me quietly, a trace of warmth, barely perceptible, flitted across her gaze and was gone in an instant. For the entire dinner, Olivia kept her arm linked through mine, playing along with the act. Faced with all the elders' questions, she was calm and composed, the perfect loving wife. But her body was stiff the whole time, never relaxed. From start to finish, restrained, abstinent, distant. After the dinner, we headed home. In the back of the luxury car, an enclosed space. The atmosphere instantly turned cold again. The moment the car left the estate, Olivia immediately let go of my arm and instinctively shifted toward the window, putting as much distance between us as possible. She pulled out wet wipes and silently wiped the fingertips that had touched me, the motion gentle but carrying an extreme sense of distance. Germaphobe, resistance, pure abstinence. The abstinence carved into her bones was on full display. She stared straight ahead and spoke coldly. Official business is done. Back to contract mode. When we get home, don't bother each other. I answered flatly. Okay. I was now completely convinced. This one-year contract marriage was definitely going to be fully abstinent, before the wedding and during the marriage. The Ice Queen wife could never be warmed up. But I never could have imagined. All that coldness and abstinence, all that distance and restraint, it was nothing but a pre-wedding disguise. On the wedding day, the wedding night, this eternal iceberg would completely melt, completely lose control. Chapter 2, Total Restraint, Extreme Contrast. Back at the hillside villa. The night was deep, the moonlight cold. After getting out of the car, Olivia was silent the whole way, heading straight upstairs without a single word to me. Back in the living room, the maid brought out fruit and desserts, speaking respectfully. Sir, miss, your late-night snack is ready. I'd just sat down to eat when a faint sound came from upstairs. I looked up, at the staircase landing. Olivia had changed into a pure white silk nightgown. Her long hair fell loose over her shoulders, the sharp professional Oregon, less cold and domineering, more gentle and languid. But her face was still cold and stunning, untouched by the mortal world, like a moon goddess who'd never tasted human food. Though maybe it was just my imagination, her exquisite cheeks seemed to carry the faintest blush. Her eyes weren't as cold and steady as during the day either, carrying a trace of barely perceptible panic and evasion. When she saw me downstairs, her steps faltered slightly, and she instinctively stopped, as if she wasn't used to suddenly having a man in the house. After 2 seconds of silence, she spoke flatly. "It's late. Let's both get some rest. Remember the contract rules." With that, she turned and quickly walked into the master bedroom, closing the door with a soft click. Cutting off all line of sight, cutting off all possibility. I smiled helplessly and got up to head to the west guest room. The guest room was clean and tidy, fully equipped, comparable to a 5-star suite. I had to admit, the Sullivan family's luxury was beyond imagination. Over the following days, we began our contract marriage life, living together but on different frequencies, under the same roof but in different rooms. Daily interaction was extremely restrained. Every morning, we'd run into each other in the dining room for breakfast. She always sat perfectly straight, elegant and cold, silent the whole time, never starting a conversation, never glancing at me more than necessary. She ate extremely fast, dignified and restrained the whole time, got up and left the second she finished, never dragging her feet. During the day, she went to run her billion-dollar corporation as CEO, and I stayed home handling my own affairs. Zero interaction between us. At night when she came home, she'd either work in the study until late or go straight to the master bedroom to rest. Zero communication, zero interaction, zero physical contact the whole time. Even if we occasionally ran into each other in the hallway, she'd instinctively step aside, keeping a safe distance of over a meter. Severe, germaphobe, extreme abstinence, cold and distant. Every day, every moment, confirmed everyone's assessment, Olivia Sullivan was born cold, with no interest in men. A week passed, and we got along politely but distantly. Aside from playing husband and wife for the outside world, in private we were more distant than ordinary neighbors. That weekend, the Sullivan family held a pre-wedding warm-up banquet, inviting all relatives and friends to pave the way for the official wedding a week later. At the banquet, celebrities gathered as usual. Mason still hadn't given up, staring at Olivia and me the whole time, looking for a chance to mock us. After a few rounds of drinks, Mason walked over to me with his wine glass, lowering his voice, his face full of sarcasm. "Liam, stop pretending. Everyone can see Olivia doesn't like you at all. She's only marrying you to satisfy her family. You're a complete and utter tool. I've found out everything this past week. You sleep in separate rooms, zero intimacy, zero interaction. Stuck with such a beautiful wife and can't even touch her, doesn't that frustrate you? I'll bet you anything, even on the wedding night, Olivia will definitely kick you out. She'll never go soft on a man in her life." A few Sullivan kids around him gathered around, joining in the jeering and mockery. "That's right. Olivia the goddess has been pure and abstinent for 20 years, no man has ever gotten close to her. Abstinent before marriage, cold after marriage. Your marriage is so pathetic. After a year you'll divorce and get nothing. Total waste of time." The harsh taunts kept coming. Just then, Olivia, stunning in a white evening gown, the belle of the ball, walked over slowly. Her cool eyes swept over everyone lightly, finally settling on me. Faced with everyone's doubts and mockery, she didn't explain. She simply walked gently to my side. In front of the entire room, she raised her hand and lightly linked her arm through mine, her head resting gently on my shoulder. The movement was soft, the posture intimate. An extreme contrast that instantly dominated the room. Everyone instantly shut up, faces full of shock. Olivia's gaze was cool as she spoke, her voice clearly carrying across the whole room. "My husband and I have a very good relationship. There's no need for any of you to speculate maliciously." 2 short sentences, fiercely defending her husband. Her posture was gentle, her eyes firm, shattering all the gossip and rumors. But only I, standing so close, could clearly feel it. Her body leaning against my shoulder was extremely stiff, every muscle tense. Her breathing was slightly ragged, her heartbeat clearly accelerated. A faint blush had spread across her cheeks too. She was still forcing herself through the discomfort. To protect me, to make the husband and wife persona convincing, she'd forcibly pushed past her own bottom line, forcing herself to be close to the opposite sex. Looking at her cold, stubborn, pretending to be calm expression, something stirred faintly in my chest. So this eternal iceberg, seemingly cold and heartless, actually had strong principles, knew how to repay kindness, and was extremely responsible. Acting was acting, but in private she still strictly maintained her abstinent bottom line. This warm-up banquet ended successfully, thanks to Olivia's fierce defense of her husband. On the ride back, the car was silent as usual. Back at the villa, the familiar distant mode resumed. She let go of me immediately, wiped her fingertips, and returned to her cold state. I was completely convinced. The pre-wedding Olivia was a genuine ice queen, abstinent through and through, no doubt about it. But I didn't tell anyone. I had a vague, inexplicable premonition in my heart. Her restraint, her stiffness, her tension, her forced endurance of discomfort. They might not be pure revulsion. Maybe it was just that she'd never been around the opposite sex in 20 years, extremely shy, extremely unaccustomed, that's all. A week flew by in the blink of an eye. The highly anticipated wedding arrived as scheduled. Riverdale's top-tier grand wedding, sensationalizing the entire city. A long line of luxury cars, $1 million sea of flowers, live streamed across the entire internet, celebrities gathered. Countless people watched the live stream, the comment section full of mockery. Such a waste of Olivia's stunning beauty, marrying an ordinary guy. Pure contract marriage. She'll definitely be a living widow after the wedding. The Ice Queen has been abstinent for 20 years, she'll never fall in love in her life. The groom is so tragic. Married a wife, but it's like he didn't. Nothing at all. The wedding ceremony was grand and solemn. The whole time, Olivia wore a wedding dress, stunning and cold, her figure graceful and upright. Faced with the officiant's questions, she answered every word clearly and calmly. I do. Her voice was cold and pleasant, but without a trace of newlywed flutter. Exchanging rings, the whole thing was a ceremonial touch, fingertips avoiding each other, extremely restrained. The entire wedding was elegant, cold, distant, abstinent. Perfectly matching everyone's perception of her. That evening. The wedding ended, the guests dispersed. The highly anticipated wedding night finally arrived. Hillside Villa, master bedroom, the bridal chamber. The room was decorated romantically and festively, red silk drapes swaying, warm light gentle. Completely different from Olivia's usual cold, minimalist style. I stood at the bedroom doorway, looking at the romantic setup inside, my heart calm. According to the contract rules, we'd still sleep in separate rooms tonight. I was about to turn around and go back to the guest room to rest. But the moment I turned, a soft, faint voice, cold but carrying a nervous tremor, came from behind me. Liam, don't go. My steps froze instantly. My pupils contracted slightly, my face full of surprise. This was the first time in half a month of marriage that she'd asked me to stay. Chapter 3, The Iceberg Melts, Complete Loss of Control. The night breeze was cool, the warm light in the bridal chamber swaying. Red romantic light and shadow fell across Olivia's stunning face, softening her usual coldness and distance. Right now, she'd taken off the wedding dress and changed into a red silk camisole nightgown. Her skin was as pale and cold as jade, her features exquisite and moving, less of the domineering professional CEO, more of a young girl's shyness and softness. But she stood stiffly by the bed, both hands tightly gripping the hem of her dress, her fingertips slightly white. Her stunning, exquisite face was covered in a layer of enticing blush. Her long lashes trembled slightly, her cool eyes not daring to look at me, her gaze darting away, her eyes filled with nervousness, panic, and shyness. A completely different person from the cold, abstinent, above-it-all ice queen she usually was. I turned around, looking at her, abnormal behavior, slightly confused. What's wrong? Olivia took a deep breath, as if summoning the courage of a lifetime, before slowly raising her eyes to look at me. Her voice was no longer cold and indifferent, it carried a faint softness and nervousness, barely above a whisper. The contract can be modified a bit. Grandpa came to see me privately today. His health has improved, but his only obsession is that he wants us to be a real couple, not acting. Tonight, you don't have to sleep in the guest room anymore. My heart skipped a beat. Half a month of living together, fully abstinent and distant, sleeping in separate rooms, zero interaction, and zero intimacy. Everyone was convinced this ice queen would never get close to any man in her life. Even I'd assumed the wedding night would be us sleeping separately as usual. But now, she was asking me to stay the night. I suppressed the shock in my heart and asked gently, "Are you sure? You don't have to force yourself. The contract was always just acting, I can keep following the rules." I knew full well about her severe, germaphobe, and abstinent habits. I didn't want her to wrong herself. Hearing my words, Olivia looked up slightly, a complex emotion flashing across her cool eyes. Shyness, nervousness, anxiety, and a trace of anticipation even she hadn't noticed. She shook her head gently, her voice still soft, carrying a hint of stubbornness. "I'm not forcing myself. All the abstinence and distance before, keeping our distance, it's because I've never been around the opposite sex. I wasn't used to it. I have germaphobe, but I don't mind you." One sentence, and it struck straight to my heart. So, her 20 years of cold abstinence, distance from men, severe, germaphobe. It wasn't that she hated men, she'd just never met someone she didn't dislike. The extreme restraint, stiff evasion, deliberate distance of the past half-month wasn't coldness at all. It was extreme shyness, extreme inexperience, extreme discomfort. It all suddenly made sense. No wonder every time I deliberately created distance and considered her feelings, there was a faint warmth in her eyes. No wonder she clearly hated being touched by the opposite sex, but again and again linked arms with me, protected me, forced herself through the discomfort to play along. It wasn't the contract binding her, it was that she specifically didn't mind me. Looking at the beautiful girl in front of me, cheeks flushed, flustered, the ice shell completely stripped away. Watching her transform from a cold, abstinent billionaire CEO into a shy, soft, pure-hearted young girl. An enormous sense of contrast swept through my entire body. The pre-wedding abstinent iceberg the entire internet mocked. Tonight, the ice completely broke. Olivia seemed to notice her own loss of composure, her cheeks turned even redder, the tips of her ears burning hot. She lowered her head slightly and whispered, "Before, I was too reserved. From now on, we don't have to deliberately keep our distance. Let's try to live properly together." After she finished speaking, she was so nervous that her whole body trembled slightly. 20 years of a pure, cold, self-contained life, for the first time, she was letting a member of the opposite sex into her world. In this moment, she was inexperienced, soft, pure, without a trace of her usual domineering coldness. I walked slowly forward, my voice gentle. "Okay. Whatever you want." I didn't rashly get close, still maintaining a gentle sense of proportion, giving her plenty of sense of security. But the moment I got closer, Olivia, who'd been restrained, shy, nervous, and anxious this whole time, suddenly seemed to shed all her disguise and defenses. The next second, she looked up sharply, a pair of clear eyes staring straight at me. The shyness in her gaze slowly faded, replaced by burning tenderness that had been suppressed for 20 years. The more abstinent and restrained she was before the wedding, the more passionate and out of control she was after. No one knew. This snow mountain frozen for 20 years, once it melted, it became a overwhelming flood, completely out of control. She no longer dodged, no longer stiffened, no longer restrained. She stepped forward, her slender, soft arms gently wrapping around my neck. Her warm, soft body pressed tightly against me. Her cool, pleasant fragrance completely enveloped me. Her originally cold, indifferent voice had turned soft and lingering, carrying a tenderness that had been suppressed for too long. Liam, from now on, I only have you. Boom. My brain went completely blank. The extreme contrast hit like a critical strike. Half a month. A full half-month of ice-cold abstinence, distant coldness, separate rooms. Everyone thought I'd married a decorative wife I could only look at but not touch. Who could have imagined? One wedding night. The eternal iceberg completely melted. The cold, abstinent female CEO completely transformed into a gentle, clingy little woman. Before marriage, 1 meter distance, no touching allowed, severe, germaphobe, cold and distant. After marriage, clinging embrace, eyes only for me, complete dependence, gentle surrender. The enormous contrast thrill shot straight to the top of my head. Outside the window, the moonlight was gentle, inside the room, red silk drapes swayed. A night of tenderness, the ice completely broken. 20 years of cold self-restraint, all melting away in tonight's tenderness. The next morning. Morning light streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows into the romantic master bedroom. I slowly opened my eyes, something soft and warm in my arms, fragrant as jade. Olivia nestled quietly in my arms, sleeping peacefully and sweetly. Her long hair spread out, her profile serene and gentle, her long lashes slightly curled, not a trace of her usual cold sharpness. The decisive, cold, abstinent billionaire CEO of before was completely gone right now. Only a gentle, well-behaved, deeply dependent beautiful young girl remained. She seemed to sense I'd woken up, her long lashes fluttered, and she slowly opened her eyes. Her clear eyes carried the hazy moisture of just waking up, soft and gentle. The moment she saw me, her exquisite cheeks instantly flushed, and she instinctively snuggled deeper into my arms, her small hands tightly wrapping around my waist. Not a trace of coldness or distance left at all. She looked up at me, her voice soft and lingering, carrying a gentle coquettishness. Morning. One simple word, sweetness off the charts. Who could believe it? This was the Sullivan family's ice queen, who before marriage resisted even holding hands, had severe, germaphobe, and had been abstinent for 20 years? I looked down at the clingy, beautiful wife in my arms, and a doting smile couldn't help but spread across my lips. Morning, wife. Hearing that form of address, a sweet smile instantly bloomed in Olivia's eyes, her eyebrows curved, gentle to the extreme. She raised her hand, her slender fingertips gently tracing my eyebrows, her eyes full of tenderness and affection she couldn't hide. Before, was I very cold? She asked softly, carrying a trace of small guilt. I nodded, then shook my head, speaking gently. Not cold. Just shy. Olivia's cheeks turned even redder. She nodded gently, nestling obediently in my arms, murmuring softly. Yeah, no one's ever been this nice to me before. Everyone who approached me did it for the Sullivan family's power and wealth. Only you were different. You respected my boundaries, considered my feelings, never forced me, never coveted anything of mine. Half a month of living together, you stayed in your lane, gentle and upright. You're the only person in my life I don't mind and want to get close to. After hearing her words, I completely understood. Her coldness, abstinence, distance, germaphobe, all of it was a self-protective armor. Growing up in a wealthy family, she'd seen enough of the darkness in people's hearts, enough sycophants, everyone coveted her status and wealth. Over time, she'd frozen her heart, pushed people away, protecting herself with coldness and abstinence. And I was the only one who came without an agenda, who stayed in his lane, who respected her and cared for her. So she'd shed the armor of 20 years and completely fallen for me. Abstinent and closed-hearted before marriage, eyes only for me after. Chapter 4, The Internet Shocked, a brutal reality check. 9 in the morning. The villa maids had prepared breakfast early. Every morning before, Olivia had been cold and aloof, eating alone, silent the whole time. Today, she was a completely different person. She clung intimately to my arm, nestling against my side, her eyebrows gentle, stuck to me the whole time. At the dining table, she was no longer cold and restrained. She served me food, poured me porridge, gentle and attentive. Every movement radiated the tenderness of a loving wife. The maid watching this scene nearby was completely stunned, her jaw practically dropping to the floor. The butler, who'd been with Olivia for years, was even more incredulous, rubbing his eyes repeatedly. He'd been with the Sullivan family for over a decade, had watched Olivia grow up. He'd never seen this ice-cold young miss be so gentle, clingy, intimate, and dependent with anyone. Before, forget linking arms with someone, serving food, being coquettish. Even the Sullivan family's closest elders, if they tried to get close to her even a little, she'd instinctively distance herself and step away. Abstinent, cold and unfeeling, that was the personality carved into her bones. But now, gentle, clingy, doting, dependent, a completely different person. The butler's mind was in turmoil, secretly shaken. "Miss, you've completely fallen. The iceberg has completely melted." After breakfast, phone messages kept popping up. The internet popularity from yesterday's wedding livestream was still going strong. The comment sections, forums, and moments across all major platforms were still full of remarks mocking me. LMAO, the wedding was cold with zero interaction the whole time. The groom's definitely still sleeping alone. Abstinent before marriage, cold after. Liam's such a tragic tool. Olivia doesn't even have him in her eyes. They'll definitely divorce after a year. Even Mason said Liam can't even touch her hand. Pure decorative husband. Wealthy contract marriages are a joke, no real feelings at all. Especially the Sullivan family relatives, after the wedding ended yesterday, they'd all posted in moments mocking me. Mason had even posted a direct post, mocking. Pity some people, so what if you married the Ice Queen? Still getting the cold shoulder on your wedding night, just living widowhood. After a year you'll be out with nothing at all. Under the post, dozens of Sullivan relatives liked and agreed, a unified chorus of mockery. Looking at the screen full of mockery and contempt, I smiled faintly. Just as I was about to swipe past my phone, Olivia beside me leaned over slightly and saw the screen clearly. Her originally gentle, sweet expression turned slightly cold in an instant. Her gaze cool, she took my phone, her eyes determined. The next second, she directly opened her verified Weibo with tens of millions of followers, personally edited a post, and made a public announcement. No obscurity or subtlety, direct and burning, public for the entire internet. Married. Truly in love. Definitely not a contract act. For the rest of my life, it's all him. My eyes are only for him. At Liam. Attached was a candid photo taken that morning. In the photo, my eyebrows were gentle, and she nestled against my shoulder, her smile sweet and tender, her eyes full of love, intimate and close. The moment the post went up, it instantly blew up the entire internet. In just 10 seconds, likes broke 10,000, and comments instantly exploded. The netizens who'd been mocking were collectively dumbfounded. What's going on? Olivia personally announced true love? Yesterday at the wedding she was cold and abstinent, today she's off the charts sweet? That nesting posture, that love in her eyes, definitely genuine feelings. Not acting. Ice cold and abstinent before marriage. Gentle and clingy after. The contrast is too much. I was just mocking Liam for living widowhood, and now I'm getting slapped in the face. Smack smack. In just 1 minute, the hashtags #Olivia post-marriage contrast #Ice Queen completely fallen shot straight to #1 on the trending list. The entire internet boiled over, completely blown up. And the most brutal reality check was for the Sullivan relatives who'd mocked me. Mason had just woken up, clicked on the trending list, saw Olivia's announcement post and the intimate photo, and his pupils instantly shook. His face instantly turned pale white, and his phone almost slipped straight to the floor. He stared fixedly at the photo, Olivia gentle and clingy, her eyes only for me, his face full of disbelief. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. That Olivia, abstinent for 20 years, no interest in men, cold and aloof, with severe germaphobe. How could she be so clingy and gentle, completely fallen for an ordinary guy? Yesterday at the wedding she was still cold and distant the whole time. Overnight, she'd completely become a different person. The enormous gap and reality check made Mason completely lose his mind. His mocking post from yesterday instantly became the laughingstock of the entire internet. All the Sullivan relatives who'd liked and agreed with the mockery went completely silent, ashamed beyond words. The more they'd mocked before, the harder they got slapped now. Everyone on the internet who'd looked down on me, mocked me for living widowhood, called me a tool, all got brutally slapped in the face. I turned my head to look at the beautiful wife beside me, calm-faced, silently protecting me, and warmth surged in my chest. Before marriage, she'd forced herself through her germaphobe to act and protect her husband for my sake. After marriage, she'd made a public announcement for my sake, slapping everyone who looked down on me. Gentle, devoted, protective, loyal. Who could have imagined that the cold, abstinent Ice Queen CEO would be so gentle and doting once she fell in love? Olivia put down the phone, turned to look at me, her eyebrows curved, gently coquettish. Now, no one dares call you a tool anymore, right? I pulled her into my arms, smiling dotingly. Yeah. My wife is the most protective. She nestled obediently in my arms, nodding softly, her eyes full of sweet smiles. The former eternal iceberg, from now on gentle only for me. The former abstinent coldness, from now on out of control only for me. Chapter 5, Extreme Contrast, Everyone Envious. After the announcement storm, the entire internet completely changed its tune. Everyone went from initial mockery to extreme envy. Help. I love this contrast too much. Cold and unapproachable before marriage, clingy and gentle with eyes only for her husband after. What kind of fairy luck does Liam have? He took home the purest, most loyal, most reversed goddess on the entire internet. Other people's wives are gentle before marriage and cold after. Liam's wife is abstinent before marriage and out of control after. Total win. 20 years of a closed heart, just waiting for the right person. This love is so good to ship. The entire internet was envious, and the popularity kept soaring. And Olivia in real life, her post-marriage contrast got more and more absurd by the day. Before marriage, separate rooms, 1 meter distance, no touching allowed, 0 communication and 0 interaction. After marriage, never leaving my side, clingy and close, hugs before bed, cuddles after waking up. The former decisive, cold, dignified billionaire CEO, in the company she was the ice-cold boss everyone feared. The moment she got home, she instantly transformed into a clingy, coquettish little wife, gentle and well-behaved. Before, she ate elegantly and restrained, silent and cold. After marriage, at meals she watched me eat the whole time, fed me, coquettishly asked me to feed her. Before, severe, germaphobe, even touching my hand meant wiping it repeatedly. After marriage, no bottom line at all, clingy and cuddly, no disgust at all, eyes full of dependence. That afternoon, Olivia took me to Sullivan Group headquarters to keep her company while she worked. The entire billion-dollar corporation building, thousands of employees, all knew their CEO was a cold, abstinent ice queen with no interest in men. No one had ever seen the CEO be gentle with anyone. The moment I followed Olivia into the company building, all the employees collectively froze. The female CEO, who usually walked with purpose, never glancing sideways, cold and dignified. Right now she was intimately clinging to my arm the whole time, her head slightly resting on my shoulder, her steps gentle, her eyebrows smiling. When getting into the elevator, she even instinctively tightly held my hand, gentle and dependent. The whole time she was like a little bird leaning on someone, not a trace of her usual domineering aura. Thousands of employees collectively, petrified, eyes wide, faces full of shock. Am I seeing things? Our cold, abstinent CEO is holding a man's hand? Oh my God. CEO actually smiles. And so gently. I've never seen it in 3 years working here. Cold and abstinent before marriage. Completely softened after. This contrast is too explosive. The legendary severe, germaphobe, no interest in men CEO, is actually this clingy to her husband. All the way under everyone's gaze, we walked into the CEO's office. Closed the door, completely alone. Olivia completely let go, the contrast maxed out. She directly dropped all CEO pretense, going from cold female boss to soft little wife. She wrapped her arms around my waist from behind, pressing her whole body into my arms, coquettish and soft. Honey, work is so tiring. I need a hug to recharge. Her voice was soft and sweet, completely subverting outsiders' perception. Who could imagine? The Ice Queen CEO who controlled a billion-dollar business empire, decisive and ruthless outside. In private, would act coquettishly and ask me for hugs. I smiled and rubbed her long hair. If you're tired, rest for a bit. She nodded obediently, nestling in my arms, leaning quietly, her eyes full of gentle satisfaction. After resting for a while, she got up to continue working. While working, she was still professional, calm, decisive, full of presence. But the moment she looked up and saw me, the coldness in her eyes instantly melted, blooming into a gentle smile. One cold, one warm, extreme contrast, charisma off the charts. Outside the office, all the executives and employees secretly gathered to watch, frantically, shocked. Completely subverts everything I knew. CEOs changed so much after marriage. Before, if anyone dared get within half a meter of CEO, they'd get the cold shoulder and be driven off. Now she's glued to her husband the whole time. Abstinent and closed-hearted before marriage, out of control for love after. What kind of fairy love is this? In the evening after work, we headed home together. On the way, we ran into Mason and a group of Sullivan kids out shopping. The few walked toward us, and seeing Olivia and me, holding hands intimately, gazing at each other tenderly, their faces instantly turned livid, embarrassed to the extreme. They'd just publicly mocked me for living widowhood, for being a tool. Now watching the two of us being off the charts sweet, they got slapped in the face, utterly humiliated. Mason stared fixedly at our intimacy, his eyes burning with extreme jealousy and regret. He'd pursued Olivia for years, poured out his heart, spent all his resources, and couldn't even touch Olivia's hand. I'd done it in just half a month, made the eternal iceberg completely melt, completely fall, lose control for love. Why? Burning with unwillingness, he spoke through gritted teeth. Olivia, do you really genuinely like him? You're just going through a novelty phase. You used to hate men the most. Hearing this, Olivia looked up, her gaze cool, presence overwhelming, tightly holding my hand, speaking flatly. What I hate is all men who come with an agenda, who covet my family's wealth and status. I specifically don't mind Liam. He's clean, upright, gentle, sincere, doesn't want my money, doesn't crave my power, treats me genuinely. I was abstinent before marriage because I was waiting for someone worth it. And now, I've found him. Every word clear, every sentence a slap in the face. She looked at Mason, her tone carrying extreme certainty. What I feel for him isn't novelty, it's certainty for the rest of my life. All the restraint and abstinence before marriage was so that after marriage, I could be passionately out of control for him alone. One speech, and it completely shut down everyone's doubts. Mason's face was pale white, his whole body stiff. He couldn't say another word, full of regret, utterly disheveled and defeated. All the Sullivan kids nearby lowered their heads in shame, not daring to mock another word. I looked at the beautiful wife beside me, firmly protecting me, and my heart was full of tenderness. The world only knew she was cold, abstinent, cold and unfeeling. Only I knew she was gentle, loyal, and extremely devoted. Her coldness was armor for the world. Her gentleness was a preference that belonged only to me. Chapter 6, A Lifetime of Preference, Complete Surrender. Day by day passed, and the sweetness of married life kept exceeding all limits. Olivia's contrast got more and more obvious, more and more extreme. Her before-marriage self. Cold, abstinent, distant, restrained, germaphobe, unfeeling, unapproachable. Her after-marriage self. Gentle, clingy, coquettish, doting, forgiving, devoted, eyes only for me. The tenderness she'd never shown in 20 years, the softness she'd never revealed, the passion she'd never released. All of it, every bit, given to me alone. Before, everyone said Olivia was born cold, didn't know how to love. But only when you're truly loved by her do you know. Once she falls in love, it's extreme loyalty, extreme devotion, extreme preference. She remembers all my likes, accommodates all my habits. She'll set aside her status as a billionaire CEO to cook for me. She'll cancel all pointless social engagements and come home on time every day to be with me. She'll fiercely protect her husband outside, and be gentle and coquettish at home. Abstinent and guarded before marriage, untouched by mortal worldliness. Out of control for love after marriage, giving all her tenderness. That evening, deep in the night, everything quiet. After washing up, Olivia nestled in my arms, looking at me quietly. The warm light was gentle, the moonlight just right. Her slender fingertips gently traced my palm, her eyebrows gentle, speaking softly. "Honey, do you also think my contrast is really big?" I looked down at the beautiful girl in my arms, smiling gently. "Yeah, really big. Before marriage you were cold like a fairy who'd never tasted mortal food. After marriage you're soft like a clingy little kid." Olivia's cheeks flushed slightly, she smiled sweetly, snuggling deeper into my arms, speaking softly. "Because before, I didn't dare trust anyone. Wealthy families have complicated people. Everyone who approached me had something to gain. I could only pretend to be cold, shut myself off. After meeting you, I finally learned that being treated genuinely, being gently, forgiven, is this happy. So I took off all my disguise. I just want to give all my tenderness to you." After hearing her heartfelt words, I held her tightly in my arms, full of doting affection. How fortunate I was to meet this iceberg, frozen for half a lifetime, melting only for me. Others saw her post-marriage contrast and loss of control. What I saw was her extreme sincerity and loyalty. She used 20 years of cold abstinence to guard her purity and her true heart. Just to leave it for the person worth entrusting the rest of her life to. And I happened to be that lucky one. I leaned down and pressed a gentle kiss to her forehead, promising softly. "The rest of our lives is long. I will never let down your devotion. I'll spoil you all my life, protect you forever." Olivia looked up, her eyes bright with starlight, full of love. She nodded firmly and gently kissed my lips. The night was lingering, tenderness filling the room. The contract-empty marriage the entire internet once mocked now became the most envied mutual devotion on the internet. The marriage everyone once judged as living widowhood. Now off the charts sweet, love beyond compare. Before marriage, she was abstinent and closed-hearted, 10,000 people couldn't get close. After marriage, she was out of control for love, doting only on me. The best love in the world is probably just like this. You froze for half a lifetime, and I promise you tenderness for the rest of it. You were abstinent and self-contained before marriage, and I'll accompany you through a passionate life after. From now on, Riverdale no longer has a cold, abstinent ice queen goddess. The world only has Olivia Sullivan, my gentle, devoted wife, her heart full of me, out of control for love. Hey there, could you rate this story in the comments? Use a scale of 1 to 10, please, I'm begging you, it really means a lot to me. And if you like this kind of content, don't forget to hit follow.